everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to admit, watching Steffy Forrester Finnegan absolutely unravel during her time in Monaco has been one of the most heart-wrenching things I have witnessed on this show in a very long time. When she realized that Sheila Carter was lurking around, breathing the same air, and essentially stalking her vulnerable family in what was supposed to be a beautiful paradise, my own heart started pounding heavily in my chest. You can literally feel the suffocating panic and sheer terror radiating from Steffy straight through the television screen. For a woman who has survived so much unimaginable trauma at the hands of Sheila, including being brutally shot and left for dead in a dark alley, the mere thought of that monster being nearby is enough to break anyone's sanity. I cannot help but feel a deep, overwhelming wave of sympathy for Steffy in those moments of pure, unadulterated terror. How long can a person realistically live in a constant state of fear before they completely crack under the immense, crushing pressure of it all? But my profound sympathy for Steffy quickly turned into a deep sense of frustration and anger when it comes to her husband, John Finnegan. I am just sitting here in my living room, shaking my head in utter disbelief at Finn's colossal foolishness and lack of judgment. He actually knew that his biological mother, the woman who has terrorized his wife, was on that very same flight to Monaco, sitting right next to him, and he actively chose to keep it a secret. In my opinion, a deliberate lie of omission in a marriage is just as destructive and painful as a spoken lie, especially when it involves a dangerous psychopath who has repeatedly tried to destroy your family. Finn thought he was protecting Steffy or foolishly waiting for the right moment to tell her, but we all know there is absolutely never a right moment to reveal that the devil is standing in your backyard. Does this man honestly not understand the terrifying depth of the emotional trauma his wife carries every single day? When I saw Steffy take off her wedding ring in a fit of absolute despair, a cold, terrifying chill ran straight down my spine. That tiny, sparkling piece of metal symbolizes so much more than just a legal union. It is the physical representation of her sacred vows, her ultimate safety, and her unwavering commitment to a beautiful future with Finn. Watching her slowly slide it off her finger felt like watching a massive, sturdy steel bridge collapse violently into the dark ocean below. It was a heartbreaking visual declaration that her safe harbor had suddenly transformed into a place of unbearable betrayal and deceit. I truly believe that in that specific, agonizing moment, Steffy felt her marriage was entirely unsalvageable and completely broken beyond repair. It makes me wonder, have you ever felt so profoundly betrayed by the one person who was supposed to protect you from the world that you just desperately wanted to erase every physical tie to them? The sheer desperation that followed that symbolic gesture was incredibly difficult and painful for me to watch as a longtime fan. Steffy turning to alcohol to violently numb the agonizing pain of Finn's perceived betrayal is a classic, deeply tragic coping mechanism that we have seen tear good families apart time and time again on this show. I felt a heavy, suffocating sadness watching her drown her sorrows, knowing full well that the bottom of a liquor glass never holds any real answers, only temporary, dangerous oblivion. When a person is that heavily intoxicated and that emotionally shattered, their moral compass completely shatters right along with their broken heart. I am deeply worried about the incredibly dark path this sets her on, because we all know from years of watching these dramas that decisions made in a drunken, tear-soaked haze of heartbreak are usually the ones that destroy lives forever. And then, stepping out of the shadows of her profound despair, comes Carter Walton. I have always viewed Carter as a genuinely good, honorable man, a true pillar of strength and fierce loyalty at Forrester Creations, but he has this incredibly tragic flaw of repeatedly getting involved with women who are emotionally unavailable, married, or in the midst of a severe life crisis. Seeing him become the focal point of Steffy's drunken, desperate need for comfort makes me want to stand up and yell at the television screen, warning him to run as fast as he can in the opposite direction. In my view, Carter is not actively looking to be a malicious homewrecker, but he is a deeply empathetic man who wants to comfort a beautiful woman in pain, and that is a very dangerous, combustible combination. Will Carter ever learn to fiercely guard his own heart against the chaotic, destructive storms that always seem to surround the Forrester women? The shocking realization that Steffi actually crosses that sacred unspoken line and falls into bed with Carter leaves me with a sickening, heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach. This is a monumental, unforgivable betrayal, a complete and utter violation of the solemn vows she swore to uphold until death parts them. I completely understand that she was hurting, highly intoxicated, and feeling entirely abandoned by the man she loved, but infidelity is a loud, ringing bell that you simply cannot unring, no matter how much you might regret it in the morning. My heart aches for the future, because I know that this one night of misguided, drunken passion is going to act like a slow-acting, deadly poison in her life and her marriage. It is absolutely terrifying to think about how one impulsive, reckless decision made in the dark of night can completely obliterate a family's entire future and legacy. Imagine the crushing, suffocating weight of reality that must have hit her the morning after this terrible mistake. I can practically feel the devastating, sickening hangover of guilt that must have violently washed over Steffi when she finally sobered up and fully realized the catastrophic magnitude of what she had just done. The numbing effects of the alcohol quickly fade away, but the lingering memory of Carter's touch and the glaring, painful absence of her wedding ring remain permanently etched in her mind. I firmly believe that Steffi woke up feeling completely disgusted and horrified with herself, realizing that she had tragically stooped to a level of deception and betrayal that she usually loudly despises in other people. How does a proud woman like Steffi look at herself in the mirror knowing she has just single-handedly destroyed the very foundation of her family, even if her husband does not know about it yet? The bitter irony of the situation that immediately follows is almost too much for me to bear as a viewer. Here comes Finn, rushing back to his furious wife with his tail tucked firmly between his legs, pouring his entire heart out in a desperate, tearful apology. He is literally begging for her forgiveness, taking absolutely all the blame for the Monaco disaster and the terrible Sheila secret, entirely convinced that he is the sole terrible villain in their marital tragedy. Watching this good doctor grovel and plead while being completely blissfully oblivious to the fact that his wife just slept with another man makes me feel a strange, uncomfortable mixture of pity and intense secondhand embarrassment for him. It is a truly heartbreaking evaluation of a marriage where both partners are now living in completely different, highly distorted realities. What truly shocks me to my absolute core is Steffi's calculated decision to keep her mouth firmly shut about her night with Carter. Instead of bravely coming clean and matching Finn's raw vulnerability with her own painful, ugly truth, she actively chooses to hide her affair and let Finn continue to believe he is the only one who ruined their beautiful life together. In my honest opinion, this is an incredibly cowardly and deeply hypocritical move on her part. She is essentially allowing her husband to carry the entire crushing burden of their broken marriage while she secretly harbors the ultimate, unforgivable betrayal deep inside her chest. I have to ask all of you watching at home, do you genuinely think she is hiding this massive secret to protect Finn's fragile heart, or is she simply too terrified of facing the catastrophic, life-altering consequences of her own terrible actions? This massive, ugly secret instantly creates a highly toxic, dangerous power imbalance in their relationship that I find deeply unsettling to watch unfold. Poor Finn is going to spend his days nervously walking on eggshells, trying desperately to make amends, buy flowers, and win back his wife's shattered trust, while Steffi sits silently on a massive, ticking time bomb of infidelity. Every single time Finn looks at her with eyes full of love, devotion, and deep regret, it is going to feel like a sharp, jagged knife twisting violently in her guilty conscience. I strongly predict that the sheer, suffocating weight of this immense hypocrisy is going to eat Steffi alive from the inside out, likely causing her to randomly lash out at Finn for no apparent reason just to somehow alleviate her own internal burning self-loathing. We also absolutely cannot forget about the heavy burden placed on Carter Walton in this incredibly messy, complicated equation. He is not the type of callous man who can easily compartmentalize a dark secret of this magnitude, especially since he works so closely with the Forrester family every single day of his life. I can clearly see the heavy, crushing burden of guilt weighing down on his broad shoulders every time he crosses paths with Finn at the corporate office or at a joyous family gathering. My personal evaluation of this dynamic is that Carter's innate, deep-seated sense of honor and decency will eventually clash violently with Steffi's desperate, frantic need for absolute secrecy, creating intense, unmanageable friction between the two secret lovers. Will Carter realistically be able to look Finn directly in the eye and shake his hand, knowing full well he was intimately entangled with the man's wife just days before? As I sit here quietly reflecting on all this impending heartbreak and drama, I feel a profound, lingering sense of sorrow for these characters who just cannot seem to get out of their own destructive way. We watch them meticulously build these beautiful, loving lives, only to ruthlessly tear them down with dark secrets, foolish lies, and brief moments of drunken, tragic weakness. It truly makes me wonder about the incredibly fragile nature of human trust and how shockingly quickly a lifetime of deep love and devotion can be completely dismantled by a single night of terribly bad choices. I would absolutely love to hear your personal thoughts and feelings on this agonizing storyline. In the comments below, do you think Steffy will ever find the courage to confess on her own, or will poor Finn have to find out the hard, devastating way? Until next time, let us keep our fingers crossed for the best, even though we all know deep down that the absolute worst is yet to come.